What's going on, everybody? Duck Nation and College Football Nation. It's UODuckBros by myself. My brother's at work, so I figured I'd just make the video today. Um, Tough loss. I don't know. We just got beat by a team, I guess, that wanted it more than we did. You know, I was on Twitter last night, and I was on the timeline, just kind of reading through what people were saying, and I guess the sentiment was that the DeAnthony Thomas comment about the Rose Bowl is whatever, I guess, was really the telltale of the attitude of the team, I guess. They just didn't look very inspired. I know Mariota's hurt, so I mean, he's still out there competing, and I don't fault him for going out there and trying to play on a sprained MCL. A lot of drop passes. Defense was really struggling trying to figure out what Arizona was doing, and it seemed like every time that we needed to make a play to get off the field, it just never happened. And credit Arizona, really. I mean, they came out, and from the very get-go, they looked like they were just faster. They looked like they wanted it. They looked like they wanted to be there, and we just kind of were sleepwalking through most of the game. Kind of looked like the Stanford game, really, but a little bit different, because this game I felt like we were the more talented team. I felt like we were the better team. I feel like 9 times out of 10 we win that game, but we just didn't have it. We couldn't get out of our own way when we were making plays. There was something that would stop us all the time, whether it would be Arizona just playing good defense, or whether it was us dropping passes, or if it was just the offensive line not playing that well, being banged up. Defensive line, I don't know. Just the last 4 games or so have really struggled to get pressure on the quarterback, and I don't know if that's just a case of being injured, or if it's a case of having a new defensive line coach and different philosophy, or but not having Kilikipi, not having Haimuli, which I'm glad to see Haimuli's okay, and I hope Wade Kilikipi's okay as well. You lose 600 pounds in the interior of that defense, and that's just going to make things a lot harder for you in the run-stop game. And Kadeem Carey is just a beast anyway, and we're going to have our hands full with him regardless. But this was just, he had over 200 yards in the ground, and I mean, even though he's a really good running back, that's just inexcusable for a team of Oregon's caliber and talent. I don't know. It's just a really frustrating game, because you know what this team is capable of, and when they play to their full capacity, that they're pretty much unstoppable. That really the only team that has stopped them really this year legitimately was Stanford. I feel like everybody else we should just walk through, and that's no disrespect. I just feel like we're that much more talented, but Arizona just completely took us behind the shed yesterday and whooped us. So it's been a tough one. A couple other things I'd like to address about some things that I had seen on Twitter and some things I had seen on YouTube. I'm not going to mention any names on Twitter or YouTube, really, but I see a lot of Oregon fans that get on there and chastise other Oregon fans for being critical of the way Oregon played. And I feel like, we as fans, of course you can take it too far. I'm not saying that you get to just, bash on people and say whatever you want, but there is, I think, a limit to the way that you criticize. I think makes all the difference, I guess. But I feel like fans have the right to criticize their team if they know that their team just didn't show up, and I feel like Oregon didn't show up. I'm not saying that they were out there on the field and they were playing, and some of them were trying, but you could tell there were just some of those players that just didn't bring it. And you know that they didn't bring it because you've seen other games, and that have evidence to show that they did bring it in other games. So I I don't think that it's fair to say that you're not an Oregon fan or a true fan if you criticize your team. I think you need to hold your team accountable, just like anybody else would be held accountable for the things or the actions that take place. I don't like how Oregon fans, I guess, for a lack of a better term, feel that it's not fair to criticize unless you play football. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of sports writers out there that criticize on games all day long that don't play football or never played sports, but because they cover it for as long as they do, you know, I think they deserve to. I mean, that's where they make their living. I think they deserve to have the right to do so. Um, I don't know. I just don't like that whole mindset of you don't get to say anything unless you've played before. I just don't like that. We've spent a lot of money as fans. We invest a lot of time. Um, so I think based on that, we have the right to say what we want to say. But I do think it has to be within limits, of course. But the other thing I want to say is YouTube. I'm a big fan of DJ David. Um, he's an Oregon Duck video guy that does. He's part of the TTC for Oregon. He does a lot of that kind of stuff. Trash Talking Circle. Um, and I saw your video, and there's certain things I agree with. There's certain things I don't. I don't think we're a better team without DeAnthony Thomas. Um, I still think we're a great team, but I don't think we're better than a better team without DeAnthony Thomas. I think he is um, a, a real special player, and I think for anybody to say that DeAnthony Thomas needs to go to the NFL or needs to lead this team because he's a cancer or whatever you feel, I think that's wrong. Players can speak their mind. Now, we don't have to like it, but it's a free country. They can say what they want to say. If he felt that it was a natty or bust season, then that was his feeling. Um, I'm not going to fault him for it. I'm not going to praise him for it. But if that's how he feels, and if that's how Josh Huff feels, then let them say what they want to say. I don't think that their actions in the media was the sentiment or echoed the sentiment of the entire team. I feel like the team as a whole needed to show up, and they didn't. I don't think one or two players ruin it for the entire squad. So I mean, I don't know about that. I don't agree with that at all. But you know, um, I guess it's just one of those things where it's all perception and how you look at what was said and how it was said and the demeanor that they said it, I guess. But those are just some things that I saw that were a little bit disheartening or troubling to see. But getting back to the game, though, we outgained them in total yardage, threw for more yards. They ran for more yards, but we still ran for almost 200 yards. We had like 198 yards on the ground. So, I mean, as bad as Oregon may have looked, I mean, we had a lot of yards. We just couldn't punch it in the end zone. And I'm a big fan of, I don't know, when we get into the red zone, that just seems like it's our Achilles heel. I don't know. Calling those fade patterns in the corner of the end zone that haven't worked all year, I'm not a big fan of those. I'm not a big fan of not having a package with like a fullback or a tight end or some big people to play on the goal line to punch it in instead of doing the spread, hand it off thing, because it really doesn't work. We don't have any lead blockers. Our offensive line just isn't getting the push, and it's perfectly evident all year long that when we play teams that have bigger defensive lines, we haven't been able to punch it in like that very often. And you go back to any of the big games we played in national championship game or LSU or Ohio State or anybody else, that's always been a problem. It wasn't about getting yards, it's about scoring. And another thing, the field goal problem. I don't know what it is about us not taking field goals, but it really does bother me. I'll never understand why you choose to try and get a touchdown instead of taking 3 points. It just blows me away, especially after the Stanford game. I figured we would have learned by now, but we haven't. Those are just some of the things that, throughout the game really bothered me, and just, I don't know. kind of at a loss for words, really. It's still kind of, I don't know, has me in a fog, I guess. But I feel confident enough, though, that after watching Oregon State get blown out by Washington, that coming up next week against Oregon State, we should have a pretty easy time moving the ball. And I'm not really scared about Oregon State whatsoever, but we'll get into that later. I just had to address this video. Credit to Arizona, though. Really good game. Congratulations to your fan base, your football team. They played a really good game, and got to give credit where credit's due. But anyway, dust it off. We got a big game next week. Hopefully, we finish strong, and we have a lot left to play for. I mean, if you think about it, we're at the point now where we're considering a possible 2-loss season as a down year. In my entire life watching, Oregon football, I would have never, ever dreamed in my life that I could say a down year was 2 losses. I mean, yeah, I would love to go to a 5th straight BCS bowl game, but we still have, an 11-2 season possibly is something that a lot of other programs would kill for. So be happy that we're still in contention for, a possible top 10 finish still at the end of the year, because everybody ahead of us is going to have to lose come to conference championship time and bowl season. So just keep your head up, and we'll dust off, get ready for the Civil War, and it'll always be fun to beat the Beavers. So until then, have a great week, have a happy Thanksgiving, and as always, go Ducks.